So we can get started. Mr. Hamlet is in a meeting, so for once, I said to Mrs. Smith, who took my training wheels off, and I get to start the parent coffee this morning. But as I'm gonna pass it off to Mr. Brooks and Mr. McGonigal. But this is actually the final 8th grade parent coffee of the year, which means it's your final parent coffee of your Arupe time, which is sort of a nostalgic thing for me. Your boys, I've been with them for 2 years, and it's kind of crazy to think that. And I think it's about 33, 32 days. They won't be mine anymore, which is kind of crazy. But Mr. Hamlet just wanted me to cover a couple things that. The end of 8th grade is a little bit different than the end of 7th grade. For most of you, you remember in 7th grade, if your sons were working on the city project at this park, that was their sole focus, was the big end project. And many of you probably came in for the city project to see them present. And you might be noticing that that's a little bit different this year. The end of 8th grade looks a little bit different. The rites of passage are sort of spread out. Different teams are doing it differently, so your sons might be doing joint English and social studies project that's starting. They might be working on a science project that they're working on right now with a group. They might be reading a book that's different than what their friends are reading. So the 8th grade teen classes end in sort of a different way, not with a big formal presentation like they did in 7th grade. But there are other things that happen as rites of passage in Arupe for the end of 8th grade. The boys will, of course, take their math and language exams later in the year. They will have their final Spring-a-Palooza, which is on May 11th, which should be great. More bubble soccer and blow-up slides. And then there are a couple other things that are different than 7th grade. One is this thing we do called the Grad at Grad Reflections, and your sons will hear about it in about a week. I'll present to them. So it's a tradition in Arupe. They'll have a weekend, 2 weekends from now, the 11th, 12th-ish weekend, where they won't have any homework. And instead what they'll have is this reflection about the Grad at Grad, and they're asked to write 2 kind of reflection essays about where they've grown in their 2 years or 1 year in Arupe, and where they want to grow in their 4 years in high school. And then they'll have a day where they'll meet in small groups for about an hour, about 5 or 6 boys and teachers throughout Arupe, faculty, administrators throughout the school, just sort of talk about it. It's really an incredible tradition that happens. I'm a fan of it. I put it on, so I have to be a fan of it, but it's really nice. So that's coming up. That's sort of a rite of passage. And then they will create their 8th grade video, which maybe you've heard rumblings about, but it is a famous part of the Arupe career is that they get to film an 8th grade video with whoever they would like. It's Mr. Hamlet and Mr. Goso running through the hallways with the camera, boys doing all types of stunts, and we'll watch that on the final assembly, which will be the last day of school. There's not a formal graduation in Arupe. It's just a school assembly where the boys sort of shake out with their advisors the last time, and we watch the 8th grade video. So that is the end really of Arupe, but I'm going to move on to the boys' time in the high school and pass it on to Mr. Brooks and Mr. McGonigal about getting involved in the high school, about the extracurriculars that they can do. So we'll start with Mr. Brooks. He's the Vice Principal for Student Affairs. He's going to talk to you about extracurriculars.
Thanks so much, appreciate it. Good morning, how are we doing? Good. So 8th grade parents, correct? All our boys are moving on, we're going to be 7th grade parents, and they're all moving on to high school next year. I want to introduce myself again, Hollis Brooks, Vice Principal for Student Affairs. We oversee everything that isn't academics and mission and identity. Mission and identity falls under Mr. McGonigal on the school been here a long time. I'm trying to make a pitch for you now, get some support so that your sons see student affairs as something other than just that dark, stormy cloud of discipline, right? That's where these guys tend to go at times. Some of our boys more than others. But we want these guys to know that there's a lot more coming out of our office than just that. So this is my first plea to try to get your help there and help these guys see our department a little bit differently. We oversee all attendance in the high school. We oversee the athletic department. We oversee all the co-curriculars. We do the discipline. We have Lost and Found in there, which is just really, you should stop by just to see Lost and Found. It's hysterical what some of these guys do. But we also take care of all the T-passes and commuter rail stuff. Information on that will be coming out. We'll probably have something in the final Eagle update of the school year, but then we'll be rolling out more information throughout the summer. There is a sign-up date prior to the start of school next year, so please pay attention to that. Make sure if you're not getting those email updates, check in with someone here, and we'll make sure that it's not something on our end, that you guys are signed up and get what you should get. But basically what I want to focus on here, as Ms. Dolanson just pointed out, is how to get your sons engaged in the community. And two great vehicles for that are through our athletic department and through our co-curricular department. So that's what I was going to spend a little bit of time speaking about today. We hope that your experience in Arrupe has been a good one. It is a great foundation for what they're going to experience in the high school. But as a college preparatory school, we do ask a lot of our guys, right? And their days will look a little bit different in the high school. We have rigorous academics, right? You guys don't all live in Dorchester, I'm assuming. So there is a component of travel, which is a big, big sacrifice your sons and you make, depending on how they get it. We recognize all of that. We're asking a lot from these guys, and one of the things we think help mitigate some of the stress associated with such a busy schedule is engaging in the community, with the community in a way that is pleasant for them, something that they look forward to, ways where they can expand their interests and their horizons. And we think that athletics and co-curriculum are a great way to do that. So as I try to tell you some of the strong points of these programs, the hope is that you'll have some opportunities this summer, even the beginning of next year, as you guys start supporting your sons through the transition into high school, to get them to be looking at this stuff, okay? I'm going to start off with athletics. There's no hiding it. We're a big school. We're in the Catholic Conference. We are a very competitive athletic school, right? Some of your sons may already be on teams in the Arrupe division. Fantastic. Some of your sons may have tried out for teams in the Arrupe division and didn't make the team. Unfortunately, that's the reality of this school. We have a lot of things we think about forming your young men, right? And some of that is learning how to deal with disappointment, right? But what we're trying to get these guys to do is see that, hey, this has been my sport my whole life. And at a certain age, I think they attach a lot of their identity to that type of stuff, right? We're trying to expand that a bit. So if hockey's been his thing for the last 10 years, and God knows how much of a commitment that is from a parent standpoint, by money and carting all around New England, and never at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, it's 4 in the morning or 10 at night, right? We understand the commitment there. If that's not working out for him here, we would like him to think about other options that he has, right? That's just one example. If your son got cut from an athletics team in Arrupe, we would really like him to try out again in high school. Okay, I just spent some time yesterday speaking to the athletic director about messages he wanted to convey to you all. We have plenty of we have a fairly long track record of guys. It just didn't work at the Arrupe level, right? They come, they're refocused. Maybe they've sought out feedback from the coach as to why they didn't make the team. They're working on certain skills. They come back, they try out again, they make the game. We have guys that, let me take basketball. We've got a freshman A and B team, right? We've got guys that didn't make the freshman team, A or B. Sophomore year, they try out again. They can't play freshman A or B. They can only play JV. There are guys on the freshman A and B team that don't make the JV squad, right? We've got a limited amount of spots on each team. The guys that didn't make the AB as freshmen, they focus, they get the feedback, they work on the skill set, they try out sophomore year, they make the JV team. We have a robust track record of guys persevering through some of those disciplines. So if your experience has been, okay, I didn't make this team at this level, we're done at BC High, I push you to try to think around that, and how can we get your son thinking about trying that again. On top of that, maybe looking at another sport is a way for him to engage with the community. We have no-cut sports, right? Sports where they can try out and be part of the team, we're not going to cut them. There's one for every season, and then there's some that kind of have the asterisk next to it. I just want to bring these sports to your attention. The cross-country team in the fall will not cut, okay? Rowing, which is just folded under our athletics banner, they are trying to be a non-cut sport. Obviously, we have some limitations with transportation getting over to the river, with the amount of boats we have, the seats within those boats. So there is a numbers game there too, but the coaching staff of the rowing team wants to help your son be part of that program. Maybe he's not sitting in a boat freshman year, but they've got a program where they can get him in a boat sophomore year, right? A lot of that's the teamwork, the conditioning, the fitness. There's a lot of great benefits to being a part of that program. So rowing and cross country in the fall. Wintertime, wrestling team does not cut. Okay, so you've got wrestling, indoor track does not cut either in the wintertime, and then rowing is actually a 3-season sport. They compete in the fall and in the spring, but in the winter, they do a fitness regimen. They have a schedule, these guys come in X amount of days a week, and they get on the ergs, and they work on their times and their form and their level of fitness. So they're right there in that wintertime slot. You wouldn't be cut if you was looking to get in some conditioning. Okay, and in the spring, rugby tries to not be a cut sport. We have 2 different levels, a development team and a varsity team. They are enjoying some success right now. The varsity team has won the states the last 3 years, and they're looking really good this year as well. But we have a really good developmental team that's got the capacity to take some more guys on, work on those skills, learn those skills. That'd be a great place for guys to go if they're looking to like in the springtime. Track, outdoor track in the spring is not cut as well. Ultimate Frisbee, which is a neat sport that maybe your sons have never really known much about or tried. Great teamwork. There's no refs. I don't know what you know about Ultimate Frisbee. The teams go out there and they work through problems. I think it's a really neat sport. They also try not to cut. That is also a numbers depending thing. So get you guys thinking about that. They've had some problems in the past with getting on one of these teams. I stopped talking about sports and hop into the co-curriculars. This is a really neat part of BC High, and what I think that often gets overlooked, especially because these guys are so busy, right? We have a very robust offering of co-curriculars, and I'm going to give you kind of an outline of some of what we got going on here. A great way for these guys to understand what we do have is the beginning-ish of the fall term. We will have a co-curricular fair where all the co-curriculars are represented down in the common right after school. It's a pretty neat little fair right there. It gets a lot of attention. You can go around each table, find out what each co-curricular is about, sign up if you're interested. That club will then reach out to them and let them know what we need. Those guys can sign up for 10. You know, over the course of a couple of weeks, they might whittle down what they're interested in and they can make it to a 3 or 1 during the year. We do the same thing at the beginning of the winter term. We'll do another co-curricular fair. We don't do it in the spring because we feel like everyone's had a chance to see what's out there at that point. For some of your guys that are planning on playing a fall sport, make a fall team. The winter one, they might have a conflict there with their schedule for practicing games. They might run afoul of the times that the co-curriculars meet. That's why we do it again in the winter. So those guys have another opportunity to find out what we have and sign up if they're interested. We've got co-curriculars that would fall under the active wellness family. Right? We've got a cyclocross team, which is really fascinating. This is all on the portal, all on the website. If you go to the parent resource page, you'll see a button called co-curriculars. You'll see a description of all these clubs on there. We've got an intramurals team where these guys go out, they play flag football, they play basketball in the winter, they do all sorts of stuff. It's pretty competitive, it's pretty fun. Those guys seem to enjoy that. We've got a calisthenics club, we've got a fencing team. We've actually had an issue with a coach right now that we're working through, so we'll have that back online next year with a new coach. We've got the ping pong club. Can I put that under the wellness and active clubs kind of an activity? But then moving around a little bit, you know, it's a fun way for those guys to get together and not be so focused on the academics. We've got a strength and conditioning club as well. We've got a bunch of affinity groups. Mr. McGonigal oversees one of them. We've got the Asian Culture Club, the Black and Latino Student Union, the Cape Verdean Student Association, the Celtic Culture Club, Hispanic Latino Association, the Italian Culture Club. We also have a Catholic Gay Straight Gay Organization, Alliance. They meet twice a week. All sorts of folks going there to help out and support their classmates. Specific interest clubs, right? I'm just trying to show you the range of things your sons can get involved in. We've got an anime club, a robotics club, which has found some recent success. We've got a hip hop club, a video game club, which I'm not really sure why we have that, because yes, video games. We have a book club, business club, chess club, film discussion club. There was actually a concern this year that the teacher was pushing his film agenda on the kids, and they got all riled up and got back and forth. So there's some great ways for these guys to interact with their teachers, with adults on campus, in ways outside of the classroom, because these are the folks who moderate these clubs. We've got an improv, comedy club, a screenwriting club, and a Students for Life club. We've got political-oriented clubs, a Young Democrats, a Young Americans, a bipartisan club for guys that are passionate about politics. There's a venue there for them to discuss that. And then we've got your more traditional clubs that you see in a lot of schools, your Model UN, your mock trial, your quiz bowl, your DECA, your youth in government, and those often involve conferences that could be somewhere out of town, with some travel involved, or competitions with other schools. So that's basically 2 ways we feel that your sons would be served by engaging in our community. We ask a lot of them, right? We understand that. These ways we found are ways these guys can engage with us in interests in areas that they're interested in, but also be exposed to different areas of interest and things they might not have thought about prior to coming up here. And we really think there's a great opportunity for them to check it out. What I like about the fair, the 2 fairs here, the beginning of fall and the beginning of winter, is it's right in the middle of school, it's right at the conclusion of the 6th period, it's well attended, so there's no kind of, I think sometimes guys worry about image, right? Obviously at this point in their life, well, I didn't make a team, I don't want to go down there where the clubs are, where the guys go to don't make the team. It's embraced by the community. We'll have athletes that are captains in the fall in whatever sport. They've got an active role in clubs for the remainder of the year. So it's a real welcoming place for these guys to come down and see what we have to offer. And if we had your support at home too, we'll let them know, like, hey, check this stuff out. Thanks so much for coming out. We're really looking forward to working with you next year. And best of luck for a strong finish to 8th grade. Mr. McGonigal, an alum of the school, been administrator for a long time, vice principal for Nation Identity and Mission. So,
nice to see you all. Thanks for coming. It's a tough day. I would talk just a little bit about some of the ways kids can engage through some of the activities they got involved in. My office oversees campus ministry, also service programs, and each of those has a director who's much more competent in those things than I am. And so, and also, I work a fair amount with the adult community in terms of teachers who are used to work in traditional schools and that sort of thing. That's what I do. Just to reiterate a couple of things that Paula said, I think engagement is crucial. If they can plug in. I had a nephew who went here, came from a good public school background, had a great friend system back there. It took him about a year and a half to fully engage, to fully decide that he wanted to be here. So if you see some of that in your son, it's not unusual. So, and he went on to become very, very successful and played sport even. But it took him a while. So if you've been feeling those kinds of transition pains, you have lots of confidence. You don't know about that. The pace in the high school is quicker. And I think they do a great job here at Route A of creating a small, closed community where the students feel a lot of attention. There's a lot of attention in high school, but it might not be so obvious to the kids. It might be because it's bigger. But there are a lot of eyes on it. There's a lot of attention being paid to kids. One of the chief ways is through campus ministry. So one of the things that campus ministry really concentrates on is creating a community around the freshmen. And so in the fall, they'll roll out a bunch of events. Usually they'll use existing events like a football game, for example. So some Friday night when we have a home football game, campus ministry usually do a cookout in the afternoon. Encourage the freshmen to stay on campus. They'll set up games in the afternoon, a cookout, and then encourage the kids to go to the community meeting. So that sort of stuff. There's always a freshman dance early in the year. In September, again, a chance for the kids to come together. And a whole bunch of different community building activities. So that's something that you can look forward to. Another way you can find out about a lot of that stuff is when we have our back to school night in the fall. It comes very early. It's only a couple of weeks in. And that's when the parents get to run through your son's scheduling. But before that, we have a special meeting just for freshman parents. Okay, so again, just see that, make a note of your mind that you come in a little bit early and you talk to just the freshman parents about that. And again, we'll reinforce a lot of things that I'm saying here, but in greater detail. I want to say hi to Bob Hamlet. Okay. One of the other things that we do throughout our time in high school is service. There is a requirement for graduation in service, but it's very graduated, and the demands, if you want to call them that at all, are very, very modest in the freshman year. So I think it's something like 15 hours. And it's usually centered around the family. We think widen circles. In freshman year, we have them close to home with the family, and then sophomore year in their community, or broader. And then junior year is when the largest commitment is. That's 60 hours. And there's lots of different ways, but that's pretty far on with the folks right now. So in freshman year, it's handled through the religious ed class. So Amanda Adamson, who was here last year, because she had an 8th grader, she's got the 9th grader this year, handles the service. And she and Father Ron Perry, who works with her in the service, will go around to all the freshman rooms next year and explain what the program is, and so that they'll get a lot of information. It's also a great idea to keep an eye on the Eagle updates that come out weekly, if you haven't already been exposed to them. I think in the high school it's really critical that you check in on that every week. It tells you what's coming up. And it's kind of our catch-all. If we don't communicate something some other way, it's going to be the Eagle update.
You'll start to get the Eagle update, and eventually we'll shut you off from the Aruba update. No more. Yeah, sometimes I'd say they start to send it out to the incoming students as well, so when that starts to happen, I think it's about mid-May, you'll start to get them as well.
The Hyde Center also includes freshmen in some of their trips. So if you're thinking about that, certainly there's more opportunities as they get older, but I know last year freshmen were involved in the trip that we ran to Scotland, the exchange that we did with the Jesuit school near Glasgow. We do that with Notre Dame. They're a co-ed school in Scotland, and so they insisted that we team up with girls' school if we're going to continue the program. And then they're also welcome to apply for a program in France and China. And as I understand it, there are 3 freshmen this year going to China. So I was a little surprised to hear that, frankly. I just got back from a trip to Ireland with sophomores and juniors. They had a little bit of hard time being not being sophomores all the time. But it's working, now, and there's a track record. So.
Well, quickly about the Hyde Center trips. Again, there's that trip to Glasgow at the end of freshman year. I know some of the kids went out last year, had a great trip. And then most of the trips were sophomore, junior year. Hyde Center works with the service department for those junior service trips to Honduras, Dominican Republic, Ecuador, some places like that. Again, that'll be a little further up. But the other way to get involved, with the Hyde Center early on is sometimes they're looking for host families. When we have students coming who are not from an exchange, so for instance, we have, so when my son was a freshman last year, we hosted 2 students from the Jesuit school in India. And it wasn't an exchange, so they were just looking, the kids were coming here, we weren't going there that year, so they were looking for a host to have. It was a fascinating experience. One was from northern India, one was from Bhutan. I had to look up what Bhutan was all about. And then we have, in March every year, we have students who come from Zimbabwe. And we have yet to do the exchange back with them because Zimbabwe's, no, it hasn't always been safe. Now that Mugabe has stepped down, they're actually looking at maybe that will become an exchange. But we hosted again last year, last March, a student from Zimbabwe. And again, just a fascinating thing. It is, I will say this, with the students who come from those schools tend to be more sophomore, junior age. I think, for my son who was a freshman, at times it was a stretch for him to be a host. He didn't have the sort of social just life, etc. So keep that in mind. It was a good way to stretch him, it was a good way to push him, but just keep that in mind who your son is. It is, for some of the kids, it's a long time to be sort of hosting, for a week and a half or 2 weeks. But it's a fascinating experience for the whole family. So consider that as a new way to get involved with the Hyde Center. And they will send out emails periodically saying, hey, we're looking for a host family. One of the great, exciting things about your son going to high school is the opportunities. There are more opportunities, and they're just bigger opportunities. Everything, the clubs and activities in Arupe are pretty low key. In the high school, they can get involved in Model UN and be, gone every Saturday and then flying to Georgetown or Stanford or something like that for a 4-day conference. Sports are more so, the practices are longer, the away trips are longer, they go in the evenings sometimes. You think, boy, that's exhausting. But everything is, there's so many ways for them to get involved, and they do a lot of great things in high school to get them involved, to expose them to what the opportunities are. And I think, hey, some of the guys are going to take some time to really settle in and look around. Some of the guys will be, ready to hit the ground running. I think one of the things that we see from the guys coming out of the Group A division is they have formed a habit of being involved. They're used to being here. They understand what the school is. They tend to get involved very quickly over there. If your son at some point in time is not getting involved, I'm sure that the high school will say this at that back to school night, find ways to get him involved. So we can, if any questions just about anything with this next year or this year, we'll be around. I do want to thank you all. Again, this is our last parent coffee. For some of you were on your second or third kid, so you've been coming to parent coffees for a long time. Some of you have a seventh grader, so you continue to come, or a sixth grader coming in next year. But anyways, thank you very much. It's been a great day.